NFL season is almost over. Alex is taken off a week early. He's in Barbados sipping rum or something. I don't know. But we have Ben Rasa from the bullpen helping us out, doing the Yahoo show with me. Ben, what's going on?
Not much, man. Yeah, I've been on a nice fill-in streak here. I've got to come on some new shows. Better late than never. This one is my last chance. I've never done the Yahoo show, so
Oh my God, you've done everything now, right?
I've
When are we
hit
going to get you on the hockey show?
I've hit for the cycle. I'll talk some Sergey Fedorov and Pavel Bure. That's about all I can impart in the hockey world. But yeah, no, it's excited here. 16 games on Yahoo.
Oh my God, it's
My
16
God.
games. That's nuts. Well, like let me just shout out our sponsor here, Yahoo, and then we'll get into it. I think what we're going to do today. Normally, Alex and I build lineups and build cash lineups. You and I, we're just going to talk about the slate and about how you approach this because man, is it a weird slate to prepare for. You don't. There's so many moving parts. You don't know who's in, who's out. You don't know if teams are going to be playing their starters for full time, half time, and so all of these factors and considerations you have to make, and you have to really think about your lineups this week. And fortunately, I feel like you are one of the best in the business at macro thinking and how to approach building lineups. So I'm glad you're here today. Let's just shout out Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, who sponsors the aptly named Yahoo Show. If you did, I hope you got in on that Yahoo NBA Christmas overlay because that was amazing. 50K overlay, I believe. I just maxed out, threw in. I don't know anything about the NBA. I threw in Osmo's projections and doubled my money. So, like you don't even when you have Osmo's projections, you don't even need to know what you're doing. It's great.
This
So
last week.
yeah, Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, the most trusted name in fantasy. We have $200,000 baller contrast with a top prize of $20,000 this week. Of course, Yahoo now includes CSV upload, so it's much easier to mass multi-enter. You can claim up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points by using promo code AWESOMO. You can just head on over to Yahoo and use that, or click on Emac's weekly article, the Yahoo Dollar Baller, which he publishes every Saturday morning. Will probably be out very soon. There's a link in there that will take you straight to the Yahoo site. And if you're not playing on Yahoo, you should be. Great NHL contest today as well. We got a $12, $500 top prize for NHL. So I will be playing a lot of NHL over there. All right, man. Let's dive into this slate a little
Let's
bit.
do it.
I can't believe it's almost over. I don't remember last year's Week 17. I don't know how we approach these things. One thing that Alex often says is that when you have a lot of games on a slate, you are more likely to have one of those games shoot out. So you should probably consider game stacking a little bit more. Is that an approach that you're looking at this week?
So I definitely get the sentiment there. I'll say it's a fine line because if you really think about when you have so many games, there is more likely one-off performances that are just gigantic. You have more opportunities, but to cherry pick them is very difficult. Now, when you have a super short slate, of course, you can have 5 or 6 guys in a game, and even the raw points can get you there. So I'll definitely look. I think Nolan, one of the things we just talked about on the previous show, on the betting show, if you haven't watched, you can go check that out, is know the motivation of the teams. I think there are certain games here, the totals dictate it a little, but you just want to know that both teams are incentivized to possibly get going. Whereas some of these games, one team or even both teams are really unlikely to get into a game that produces a ton of fantasy production.
So let's maybe just go through some of these
Sure.
situations here right now. So, okay, at the top of the list, we have Minnesota. Looks like they're going to be benching their starters. They don't have anything to play for. We have Dallas, who needs a win and an Eagles loss to make it. So they are going to be going full out here. What's New Orleans' situation? They can still clinch a first round bye, but they need to win, correct?
Yeah, they're a big favorite
Mhm.
against Carolina, but they do. So the NFC, those big name teams, whether it's the Packers or the Saints, heavy favorites, but they do need the game
Mhm.
to lock up a bye, or if there was a stumble, some things can change. And then we have on the other side, of course, the Ravens have been vocal, as you see. Lamar Yahoo already has the O next to him. They're going to be sitting some guys.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So New Orleans is in with a win, and either a Green Bay, San Fran loss, they get the bye. So they're going to be going pedal to the metal against Carolina, 13-point favorites as well. Philadelphia needs a win. Zach Ertz questionable. They're 4.5-point favorites at the Giants. Pittsburgh, my God, I don't even want to think about what their scenarios are, but they are going to be playing this week. Other teams that might be resting starters, Buffalo looks like that. I saw something today about Josh Allen possibly sitting. Wouldn't be surprised if he only played a half or something, as well as John Brown, I think, possibly sitting.
Yep.
Miami, New England, nothing there. Green Bay needs a win, nothing there. Kansas City's a really interesting one because, they're in a good spot at home. They do score on average of, I think, 4 points less per game at home at Arrowhead. It's kind of crazy. I don't know if that's a cold weather thing or what. But they are currently 9.5 points favorites over the Chargers. The only thing here is, though, if New England goes up big over Miami, then Kansas City might just give up and rest their starters in the second half or the third quarter or something like that. So that's a bit of a concern there. Anything else you're seeing here in terms of teams that you're worried about heading into this week that you might fade because of their situation?
So the one other team I want to mention is you have one team all in the Titans. The Texans are kind of like the Chiefs. They have I guess technically they can move up a bit, but most likely it's not going to change much. I worry a little about guys like Hopkins and Deshaun Watson. I think they could get the hook early. I don't think they'll be inactive, but I do worry a little bit about the Texans playing the game all the way out.
Yeah, I think that's another one, right? So they have a 2-game lead in that division.
They've won
What
the
can
division.
they
Yep.
can they improve their position?
They
Like
can move.
the
They can
buy
move
is
up.
out, right?
The buy is out. Yes, so that's what I'm saying. They can improve, I guess, in the sense they could go up one, but I don't think they have a ton to play for. The
Yeah.
Titans are in beyond desperation mode. They're all in. We saw Derrick Henry sit last week preparing for this game. So that's one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So Titans 8-7, Texans 10-5. The best they could do is probably, I don't even know if they would hold the tiebreaker over the Chiefs, but yeah, there's
They
absolutely no
would.
motivation for them to play. So, and why would they really? They're a banged up team, and they're
Exactly.
probably going to want to rest these guys, right?
I think that's one of those. Like I said, I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to be in street clothes, but maybe late in the game we see him get the hook, and that's something to keep in mind. When building this week, of course.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's switch things up here a little bit and let's talk about some of the guys that are getting a lot of ownership this week. We often see on Yahoo a couple mispriced running backs that are just a little bit too cheap, and they usually get some ownership. We finally saw the touchdown regression with Alvin Kamara last week. He is $27 on Yahoo, in a pretty darn good spot against what is become a run funnel defense in Carolina. They are 13-point favorites. 35% ownership, but only $27. What are you doing with Kamara in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting on a 16 game slate, and I don't think I've ever said that in my life. Ownership is obviously a little more dispersed, and when you have chalk gravitating to even a level that we're accustomed to on an 11 game slate, you do have a number of pivots. Having said that, you mentioned how bad the front's been for Carolina. Them and the Jaguars are basically fighting for the worst DVOA in the league in stopping the run. The $27 price tag is very appealing. Honestly, for me, it's more the opportunity cost. I want to see what's up with Leonard Fournette, who is $26. He is the pivot that I was really interested in. I just want to make sure he's 100% if I do look to deviate.
Absolutely, yeah. So it looks like we have Fournette projected for 28% ownership, third highest on the entire slate. All running backs at the very top of our ownership projections because there are a few misprices on this slate, which I always like, especially at the running back position, because I feel like there's some safety baked in. If you've got a good matchup, then you can get some savings and a really solid floor. Fournette's in a good spot against the Colts, their zone defense usually allows a lot, or at least historically has allowed a lot of passing opportunities and pass catching opportunities to opposing running backs. $26, is that 28% ownership going to dissuade you at all?
So again, I mean, it's not what I love to see, and I'll just keep kind of working down. You have Joe Mixon at $25 coming off a spot that was a potential blow up. Then he got sick. It didn't materialize. He gets a Cleveland front that's another weak unit, and I think I will allocate some shares, especially if we don't get word, because I agree with you. The Colts always like to keep everything in front of them. That historically leads to a lot of dump offs. Gardner Minshew is going to look to Fournette a lot. So if I don't pay all the way up for Zeke, who is a preferred option on every site, these are the type of guys that I will be planning to get to.
Absolutely. All right, let's hit up just a couple more bargains here. I'm going to throw a couple names at you and tell me what you think. $17 Devonta Freeman up against the number one DVOA Tampa Bay Bucks. Any interest?
A little bit. So, I mean, that's a game that I actually wanted to bring up with you. Both teams have nothing to play for, but this is the NFC South and it's fireworks. We know what Jameis can do. And on the other side, I do like the Falcons. I will say this specifically about Freeman. Tampa is first DVOA against the run. I know he can contribute in the passing game, but I do wonder how much he gets going on the ground here. Whereas you have Matt Ryan, we know Julio has 35 targets in his last two games. That's just insane. I don't know what else
Yeah.
to say about that. We have Hooper. So there are options on the Falcons. I just don't know if I want to go to the running attack.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, right? I've been fading running backs against Tampa Bay all year long, and it's worked out pretty well. And I think I'm going to do the same. I'm actually surprised to see that ownership up at 24%, fifth most on this slate. So, yeah, I mean, the Atlanta passing attack, I'm guessing it's going to be popular this week, and I don't really have any problem going to it. The only real concern here, I think, is possibly like maybe the line isn't that bad, but I'm a little bit worried about a possibly Atlanta running away with it. They're certainly playing better
Yeah.
this year. But we will get into that game actually in a little bit, so won't say too much right now. Saquon Barkley, one more guy I wanted to get your thoughts on. $31. Philadelphia, not known for like having had usually the way to beat Philadelphia is through the air, so it's entirely possible this matchup isn't great. We got him pegged at 20% ownership, but that's a very reasonable price, right?
It is. I have no problem if you told me you wanted to go there. For me, I'd find the $3 to get to Zeke. I'd take the $4 savings and get to Kamara. That may produce a dead range in terms of ownership. Now, Saquon, Daniel Jones, he I'm not going to say he doesn't like to check down, but he has shown kind of in his little sample size here that he kind of gets mobile on his own. He does throw the ball downfield a little more. I worry about that, but we've seen Saquon looked healthy last week, that's for sure. So I can't fault anyone for going there.
Nice.
I
All
do
right.
have
Well, why
one
don't we
more
dive
for
into
you.
what's that?
I do have one more guy for you.
Lay it on me.
And it's brought up by Alan and Chad, and I think it's a great call. You know how many times I've said this year and I've been wrong, but this is the spot for Sony Michel. They're a 16-point favorite. He's $19 on Yahoo. He's had 40 carries over the last two games, just short of 100 yards in both. Couldn't find the end zone in either. I think this is the spot for him to really erupt. If he gets another 20 touches, I think he does fall in the end zone as a 16-point favorite at home in Foxborough. I like him as a pay down option. You mentioned Devonta Freeman. I'd actually go to Sony Michel in the same range.
Sonny Michelle. He was not on my radar, but I guess that makes a lot of sense considering they're 16-point
They
home
are, and
favorites,
they've been
right?
running him. Like I said, 40 carries over the last two games, but he's been a little quiet because he hasn't scored, and we know he doesn't give you much in the passing game. This has all the makings to me of one where he could fall in the end zone a couple times and really pay off.
Oh man, I like that call. I'm guessing he will be flying pretty under the radar
I
too.
think
So
so.
yeah, that's interesting. I just want to see what his price point is at right now. 19 bucks. Another advantage of the Yahoo site if you're playing these guys that don't really work in the passing game is it's just half point PPR. So
Yep.
although Sonny Michelle might not be as great a play on other sites with full point, he is a little bit better on Yahoo where you're basically just hoping for volume and touchdowns, right?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm just going to get a little tweet out here. Make sure sounding like EMAC. Just going to get the tweet going, and
I
then
gotta pay those bills in the marketing world, man.
that's right. Also, if you wouldn't mind giving this video a like, we greatly appreciate it. Helps us keep these videos free. Yeah, just greatly appreciate you guys tuning in, especially on your holidays. So thanks so much for watching. Let's get into some of these games, and we'll just talk a little bit about specific games and what you're doing with them. First off, we have the Arizona and the Rams 49.5 total. Surprised actually that this is the highest total on the slate. Of course, the big question mark here is Kyler Murray's questionable. He remained limited on Thursday. What are you doing with this one? Are you expecting him to go? Like, how are you approaching just his injury specifically in this game?
Yeah, I worry about it a little just because I mean this is the franchise. I don't know why you're going to run him out there. Kingsbury said if he's healthy, he wants them to play. It's important, but man, you got to be cautious. If he ever got really hurt, I know it's the offseason, but still. So Brent Hundley looked pretty effective. I'm not going to go there either, and it puts a temperament on this game. I mean, me talking about Kenyon Drake is something that shouldn't be allowed because I played that guy in Miami every week, and now he is the best running back I've ever seen. So he's $25. I don't know what to make of it. You have to worry, I think, a little on the Rams side about where they're at. They're eliminated. It's been a really down year. I don't think they're going to rest guys, but at the same time, if anybody's banged up, I think they're very cautious, a la Jalen Ramsey, who's already been ruled out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Kyler Murray's been a really good cash game option for us. Of course, it didn't work out last week. Just killed my lineups with him leaving early. So I'm a little bit hesitant on this one, and I feel like if he gets banged up, they're definitely going to err on the side of caution here with absolutely nothing to play for. And then, of course, if that happens, the Rams are going to be massive favorites, which makes them less appealing as a play. So let's talk about the Rams side of things here. We got Jared Goff, $33. We got Todd Gurley all the way down at he's $3 less than Kenyon Drake. Still getting the rushing attempts a little bit down in the last couple games, likely due to game script. And then what to do with these Rams receivers. We got Cooper Kupp, whose snap counts are down, his targets are down. We got Robert Woods, who's become like the second coming of Julio Jones or something in these last few weeks. And we've got Brandon Cooks, who's maybe experiencing a late season resurgence to go along with Tyler Higbee. Any thoughts on this? Are you going to be stacking up the Rams here at all in this paced up matchup against the Cardinals?
So it's a spot that I do kind of like to embrace it all or nothing, in the sense that, and I know it could be, you could split hairs, but to me, the Rams on a macro level will either roll normally, and in that case, I don't mind rolling out a full stack, or they're very cautious. And then if the stack dies, it doesn't really matter how many you have, you're in big trouble. So for me, it may be a team where I look to a very aggressive build, load up on some Rams, bring it back with one of the Cardinals. We'll have to see what's up with Kyler, though. I do think that's an important wrinkle to this game. Not that I would be going to him, but just how the game could play out. So it is weird that not one game is over 50 in terms of a total, with 16 of them.
Yeah, that's the first thing that popped out to me when I was looking at this week. This is the first week I think we've had in a while where there's just there's no one game to go to on this slate that you can feel very confident in. No one team. So this is probably one of the safer spots, but I personally have had so much trouble getting the Rams right this year, and it's been really difficult with so many weapons. It's tough to find that right stack. What about Tyler Higbee against the flow chart here?
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Higbee against the old flow chart, reasonable price at $24. He's emerged. Gerald Everett back is not going to affect him. We know that at this point. Targets are secure. I still think, again, on a 16-game slate, we'll have to see how that ownership plays out, just because we have everybody to choose from. I mean, that's not even hyperbole. It's the whole spread, and I may look to get up to guys. Austin Hooper comes to mind. Pay down for someone like Gesicki. There's a lot of options, even Travis Kelce or Kittle, in terms of the big names.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you were at all worried about Gerald Everett coming back, he caught 4 snaps last week. Higbee was on the field for 89% snap count. So it even looks like it's Johnny Mund. I can't remember his first name.
Yeah, Johnny. I think he's an Oregon.
Johnny Mund. Yeah, he is playing ahead of Gerald Everett right now. So this is Higbee's spot. I'm not worried at all about I'm not worried at all about the targets, the routes run, shares. Like he's gonna see his usual workload that we've become accustomed to down the stretch here. The only real question for me is going to be ownership, but I don't think it's going to get too high because we just haven't really seen him priced up to this point. Like he's $24. He's priced with the elite tight ends, and so he's probably not going to project very well for us, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it's just, I do think that you have to treat this as a different animal. I know we've got 13 game slates frequently and stuff. When you have 16 of them, there's just so many ways to get leverage. You don't have to allocate, now that Yahoo has the CSV upload, you're able to make that 150. You can get so much good leverage with 12% of guys, whereas on smaller slates, unless it's a real crazy play, that's not going to work. But that's the one thing I like about slates like this. You can take a lot of stabs and get good leverage. And then go from there.
Absolutely. Todd Gurley, $22.
Oh boy.
Too many good other options, right?
Yep, that's the thing. It's an opportunity cost when we've got guys. For me, honestly, Sony Michel, we have so many other backs, $3, $4, $5 more that you talked about that I really think are in a good spot.
You do not need to do much to
Let's
talk me on
go.
the Sonny Michelle, and I am on there with you. I can't wait to load him up.
I'm, I'm with you. Let's do it.
Let's just see what his ownership is right now. I just want to double check it. Yeah, he's not getting much buzz. 2% ownership, $19, and partly because you're gonna have guys like Kamara and Freeman who are just a little bit more expensive, but in better spots, but or not in better spots, but better productivity historically. But yeah, this is the spot, man. Give me $19 Sonny Michelle
Let's
over
go.
$17 Devonta Freeman as a 16-point home favorite.
Yeah, and another one, same thing. Yeah, Damian Williams. There's a lot of plays. I mean, that's again when you have all the teams, you're just gonna have to mix and match, prioritize, and look to these games that we've kind of talked about already. Whether it's the Falcons and Bucks, Rams, Cardinals. There are some totals that do produce probably some good outputs.
Well, any final thoughts on this one? Did I miss anyone that you're itching to play here? You're back on the Brandon Cooks train. Anybody else?
No, I mean, you mentioned it. The Rams have been, it's been a bad year for them, and it's been a tough fantasy year for them. They've got so many guys, but it seems like every time you think you have, an inkling of how they're going to produce, Cooper Cup plays like 30% of the snaps. Then he has 30 targets. It's a very frustrating team to break down.
Absolutely. And one week they look like world beaters, and the next they
Yep.
look terrible. And like I can't remember the game. It was like 3 weeks ago. It was before the Dallas blowout. They that offense just looked like it was back, and I don't know. It's just like then a week later they look terrible. It's crazy.
Yep, and that's from a fantasy perspective. You can embrace that, of course, in large field tournaments,
Mhm.
but for cash, for things like that, it's so difficult to look at the floors when you don't even know what kind of personnel they're going to be running.
Yeah, exactly. Great point. All right, let's move it on to our second game here. Atlanta Falcons. This is my favorite one, I think, to stack this week. I'm gonna be overweight on this one. Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 48-point total. I'm actually surprised that this total is so low. I would have thought I'm expecting this to be a shootout. What am I missing?
I don't know. What are we missing? That's the question. Because I'm with you. I really like the spot. I mean, Jameis on Saturday, he threw 4 interceptions. He threw the ball about 50 times, and he still didn't kill you. It wasn't the perfect performance,
Yeah.
but regardless, with no Evans, with no Godwin, guys like OJ Howard, guys like Justin Watson, obviously Perryman. Uh,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. He just throws the ball. And I know the Falcons have been playing a little better. It's hard not to like both sides of this game, both passing attacks, to be honest.
Yeah, you have like really good bring back options here. Brashad Perriman has back to back 100-yard games. I think Justin Watson is probably a little bit of a safer play with less high of an upside. Brashad Perriman has the bigger upside for GPPs if you want to go there. Chris Godwin is still not practicing. I think it looks like he's been ruled out already. So him and Evans, of course, out. Maybe that will lower the total. But like you said, like he's going to sling it, and maybe like OJ Howard for $13 is a guy that we want to go to. He has 6'5", 7'7" targets in his last four. So he's starting to get worked back into this offense. And of course, they're running some more two tight end sets with Cameron Braid, who's also getting targeted. So maybe changing the offense a little bit and running more two wide receiver, two tight end sets is also something to consider here. But are you going to in your Buck stacks? What does a Buck stack look for you? Are you on Jameis, Perriman? Are you throwing in these tight ends? Like what's your favorite way to go?
So I totally get the. I wouldn't fault anyone for Jameis and Perryman, but to me, Justin Watson is a way to get some leverage. Possibly, he had 10
Mhm.
targets last week. Uh, was running a lot of the routes that Mike Evans was going. More in the deep part of the field, and I think they can get over the top with him. He's a big guy, so I don't mind him. And then one of the tight ends if you're really looking for a 3-man.
Yeah, makes sense. Sorry, I was probably quite mistaken there when I said Watson doesn't have the upside of Perriman. I think you're probably right there. Um, he does have he led the team in routes run, 96% snap percentage as well. So basically, Perriman and Watson are not leaving the field right now.
No,
They're both really good. Like Perriman's probably priced up a little bit, but Watson's a great value at $14.
huge steal. I mean, you mentioned they have nobody else. Jameis throws the ball regardless. They are not going to just run it. I know Ronald Jones had a good game on Saturday. That's fine, but Jameis is going to have a ton of volume. I don't see how a guy like Watson doesn't see close to 10 targets again. And at $14, I mean, that's an easy buy for me.
Oh man, I'm just getting more and more excited to play this game, man. This is
Yeah.
gonna be like I can't believe it's flying under the radar a little bit.
That's like I said, when you got 16 of them, it's hard for people to focus on one game. And that can be a huge asset.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about. I also like OJ Howard here. I think
Yep.
he's in a good spot, and I don't know, that price point seems pretty good here. So full game stacking is not out of the question in this one for me. I know the total is not as high as you would like to see in a normal huge game stack, but of course that will also mean the ownership's a little bit lower, and people won't be doing that as much. And like you said, with so many choices for people to go to, but I've got no problem bringing this back with two players if you're going to do a two-man quarterback stack and you want to bring it back with a Watson and a Howard or something like that. Like I don't know. I think it's perfectly fine this week. What about the Atlanta side of this one? Matt Ryan throwing the ball. I think probably still more than anyone in the league. 45 attempts last week. He's hasn't had those like super high end games, but he's been really solid. He's just $32. I think probably one of the better valued quarterbacks on the slate. Um, and of course, Julio Jones up to $40. Questionable, but man, tough to get away from here, right?
Yeah. If we get word that the Falcons aren't doing anything, and I have not heard for any reason why they would be, like, calling off their weapons, it's hard. I mean, they have no one who could stop him. He's going to see monster target share. Him and Hooper are easy pairings with Matt Ryan. It's expensive, of course, but it's one of the premier spots on the entire slate.
Yeah, absolutely. Like so his target share is just through the roof. And of course, without Ridley, you're getting a much more concentrated offense. There's no guesswork there. You don't have to guess who's going to get the touchdowns. I mean, Russell Gage has been worked in. Justin Hardy's is and Christian Blake are kind of like these way down the depth chart options. So you're not really as worried about Calvin Ridley pilfering one of a touchdown or having that game that takes Julio or Hooper out of it. So definitely like the Atlanta side of this thing too. Like there's so many ways to stack and approach this game. And if people are going to be loading up on Devonta Freeman, well, give me the passing attacks.
That's the thing. I mean, I think we've talked about the Bucks. Their first DVOA in the run, middle of the road at best against the pass. The way to attack them is clearly through the air.
Awesome. Final thoughts on this one? Anything I missed at all?
No, I think to me this is probably my favorite game on the entire slate.
Oh, makes me so happy to hear that, Ben.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. It's just a great environment on both sides.
Nice. All right, we got San Fran, Seattle. One of the advantages of the Yahoo slate is that you get to play the Sunday nighter, so you can decide if you want to have that hammer coming down at the end. 46.5 total. Seattle +3, +3.5, depending on what site you're looking at. What are we doing with this? San Fran, let's talk about San Fran to start here, because they are I just cannot figure out where the ball's going to go in this offense. I'm probably just not I don't know if I'm alone in this or what, but Deebo Samuel being worked in a little bit more. Manny Sanders kind of getting his usual workload, though he did have that huge game against New Orleans a while back. And of course, George Kittle. If you're stacking up the 49ers here, how are you going about it?
Boy, it's a very difficult team to peg. You mentioned them. They have, I mean, now Raheem Mostert looks like he's leading this backfield. Tevin Coleman was the guy. Burrito was the guy at one point. I mean, if you are stacking them, obviously you're starting with Jimmy G and Kittle, in my opinion, and then it's choosing between a guy like Sanders or Debo. I don't really like the idea of throwing a running back in there with them. I think it's more you think Seattle gets out to a big lead and it forces the Niners to play catch up. This is a game I understand it's a healthy total. God, I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think it goes under the total. I don't love it for fantasy purposes.
Interesting. Yeah. Like, I think you're probably right. It's, Seattle's a tough place to play. This isn't like an exciting total or anything like that. It's nothing to get too carried away with. I might have like a stack or two, but Manny Sanders, Deebo Samuel as well. Like, I feel like the 49ers offense is starting to become a little bit more concentrated now. Both of those guys were on the field for 80 and 98% of the time last week. Both of them led the team in routes run by a healthy margin. So we're starting to see those two emerge, and Kendrick Bourne and Dante Pettis and James are kind of being taken out of this offense a little bit. So I think the 49ers passing attack is at least a little bit clearer than it has been in recent weeks. You pretty much have three main options to pair with Jimmy G if you want to go that route.
For sure. And I just think, we talked, the scenarios are wild, how badly both teams could use this game. If you lose, you could be on the road. You will be, in the playoffs. I just think it's a much better real life game than fantasy. I don't think this one gets out of control by any stretch. And with 15 other games to choose from, I probably come in underweight on the majority of these guys.
Absolutely. Okay. Seattle side of things here. Tyler Lockett, I don't know what his production's fallen off a cliff since mid-November. He has had one good game where he was targeted 9 times, 7 targets last week, only 1 reception. This is a tough matchup against the 49ers D that's starting to get healthy a little bit here. As well, we have DK Metcalf. And then, of course, we actually have these running backs in the player pool. Marshawn Lynch, $14. I'm not going to touch that. I'm not seeing. Oh, there's Robert Turbin. Robert Turbin is $10. So I don't really have any interest in this backfield. I'm not going to be having much of the Seattle passing attack either. Are you going to have anything here? Am I missing anything?
No, I mean, Marshawn Lynch is back. I think one of the main problems is for very casual people, they know who that is and they see, oh my God, Marshawn Lynch is back. Let me use him. That's a huge mistake. I'm not saying you can't have a big game, but he just came in off the street. Travis Homer, I don't really even know who that is. So not going to do that. Lockett, you mentioned the efficiency. It's ridiculous how he can get there with limited targets. But we are now seeing what happens when you have limited targets and you don't run super pure. The production has been terrible. And I just worry, again, I think Seattle's best chance, they're getting a little healthier on defense, is to lean on that unit at home and really try to salt this game away with Lynch. That doesn't breed a ton of fantasy production.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, like this Seattle offensive line's banged up a little bit. So San Francisco 49ers defensive line, not something to trifle with here. So I'm actually going to have none of those guys. And I think for me, this game is going to end up in fade territory. I'm not going to be stressing too much about not having a hammer come Sunday night if we're lucky enough to be winning here. I don't know,
No,
but I think we're on the same page on this one. Hey,
I think so. I mean, again, if this was a different slate and we had limited options, I would look more towards some of these guys, maybe a quarterback stack. But we have so many other games where I just have a much clearer picture in my mind of what we're getting.
all right, let's move it on. We got 2 games left to go through here. New Orleans Saints at Carolina, 46-point total in this one, but the Saints favored by 13. So we already talked about it a little bit. How much Alvin Kamara is too much Alvin Kamara at this price point?
Yeah, I mean, that's an important thing where we have to be cognizant. And one of the many things that we really try to do a great job over at Awesemo is, getting you the ownership, because you need to know what the field is going to be before you decide how much you need. So if Kamara is a really popular play, I'm going to have to make sure that I get healthy exposure to him.
Yeah, $27.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Not too difficult to get there. Let's just say that. So we have just let me pull up this game here. Are you at all? I meant to ask you. Are you at all worried about this one just kind of getting out of hand? Like Carolina, are they still starting Will Greer?
They are.
I haven't even looked.
And he threw, I think, 3 picks last week.
Yeah.
Was ineffective, and he's a rookie. They're going to see what they have. This is a tough spot. Again, he is at home, but it's almost a 2-touchdown spread. I worry about you can't really prepare for this because, yes, the Saints are going to be playing hard. But at the same time, if they get up big, you have more incentive in Week 17 to say, okay, we know where we're falling here. Let's rein it back. We could see Latavius take over late. We could see them go creative with all sorts of things. I did see right before the show, it was certainly nothing official. Did you see possibly Antonio Brown going down there?
I saw that. Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna. I thought he was just. Is he just having a meeting with them?
But I don't know. That would be that would break Twitter. But that's neither here nor there. So I worry a little about the blowout. I mean, it's going to be a one-off. I'm not going to be stacking the Saints. It's just too expensive when you look at Michael Thomas, Kamara, and Breeze.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I am a little bit worried about a blowout as well. DJ Moore, right before we got on, was ruled out for this one,
Okay.
too. So, and Terry McLaurin, actually, I just saw Shefty tweet a little bit a while ago. Not that makes a huge difference, but yeah, DJ Moore. So now, like, your weapons are are not looking so hot, and Curtis Samuel at $19 just doesn't seem overly appealing to me. I don't think that like it's kind of funny to see him priced up there. I would expect his price to be a lot lower with DJ Moore questionable now out, but you're not really getting much of a savings there. I guess the one good thing about this game, if you are stacking it, is there's a pretty clear bring back option with Christian McCaffrey at $42, and a pretty clear target share you can with Breeze to Thomas, and you can add in Jared Cook or Alvin Kamara into that if you'd like. So I think the one appealing aspect of this game is the kind of centralized offenses of both teams, right?
Absolutely. So it's a double-edged sword. We know where the production's going. The problem is these guys are so expensive because we know where the production's going.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey is going to see probably 10 plus receptions again. I know it's half point PPR, but still going to add up. He's $42 though. You're asking, do you want him or do you want Julio? That's a real question in my mind. He's the obvious choice on the Panthers. It's just in a blowout game. I know he has some, yardage incentives and things, but I worry a bit about where this falls production wise.
Absolutely. Anyone else I missed? Are we back on Traquan Smith a little bit? Not doing too much. Don't know why he's $15.
Nope. Not gonna go there. I think the Saints have about 30 gadget guys. One of them will have a touchdown. Good luck.
Yeah, it would be Josh Hill or Taysom Hill or someone weird. Latavius
Never heard of.
3 scores.
Tommy Lee Lewis. It's always Tommy Lee, and you're just like, he's on the team still. Yeah, maybe he's not. Yeah, like Keith Kirkwood. Remember when that guy was scoring last year?
Yeah, he had that one game. Was it the playoffs last year? He just went ham.
Sure, Keith Kirkwood, right on the tip of my tongue.
I know. For whatever reason, I love playing the Saints in Showdown because it's just like such a fun team to try and guess like which random guy is going to get a touchdown for super cheap, right?
100%.
All right, we got one game left, and then we'll just kind of talk about our favorite cash and GPP plays before we get on out of here. So the Los Angeles Chargers at Kansas City, 45.5 total. This total is low too. Kansas City favored by 9.5. We were discussing on the betting show, it's probably a likelihood that there's some fear that the Chiefs will be resting their starters at some point in this one, assuming the Patriots get up big on the Miami Dolphins. They're 16-point favorites. So assuming they're up big, then there's a pretty good chance, I think, that Pat Mahomes and the starters on offense will probably only see 75% or less of this game. How are you approaching that if that's the case? Like, how worried about the Chiefs getting benched here?
I worry a little bit. Now the spread in Vegas kind of indicates, it's all systems go to start at least. This is not where some of the games where the cards have been dealt otherwise. So I'll be somewhat cautious, but at the same time, if we get word, the thing that I'm monitoring, and we had a couple sharp people in chat mention this already, if LaShawn McCoy is a healthy scratch, Damian Williams, $15. He seems to be the guy when Shady's not out there. So that's something to monitor. I don't mind paying down for him. It's a tough ask, though, to really load up. I think it's a good team to stack because it's all or nothing with guys like Mahomes and Tyreek. But you have to be worried that once New England is up by 80 points, because Sony Michel has 10 touchdowns in the first half, then what will they do? Will they call off the dogs late in the game?
This is why I like having you on, because you kind of think about these things in this way. Like, you probably don't want to pair Sonny Michel with Chiefs stacks this week, right? Because if Sonny Michel is going ham, at least in GPPs, that means the Chiefs are probably unlikely to win, right? Or to win your GPP.
Obviously, it's not a direct correlation, but logically, the Chiefs are much, much, much more likely to pull guys like Mahomes and Tyreek Hill if the Patriots lay it on them. So combining those two teams is a negative correlation in the sense that if they're having a big game in New England, you're more likely to have your Chiefs players sitting in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and there's got to be some other ones that we can unearth on this slate. It's only Friday, and we got a little bit of time, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts. But definitely, Damian Williams, $15 last week, 16 rushing attempts for 65 yards, 3 targets with Shady McCoy out. Though Shady McCoy I guess he was just a healthy scratch last week. Hey, so it's kind of weird to try and figure out what Andy Reid's doing, because occasionally you get information out that he's just trying to rest him, but I get the sense that's not the case this time.
No, I don't think so either. But it's a situation I want to monitor. It'll take care of itself in the sense that we'll get clarity on what they want to do in that backfield. But it's just another option, and it's good to have that at least in the consideration for this big slate.
Absolutely. So let's just what about this? Mahomes 35, Tariq 30, Kelsey 28. Any of those guys interest you in a vacuum?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tyreek Hill definitely does. I think, and I get people should be worried about the risk, but Tyreek Hill is just one of those players. He could get it done in one quarter.
Mhm.
He's such a boom bust type of player. I don't mind going to him. The Chargers, you and me have already talked about the Chargers today. They are just a dumpster fire across the board. So much talent, can't get it done. But Tyreek in Arrowhead, say what you want about that. I still think at $30, he's a great tournament play. You just need to hope he gets his damage done in the first half.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely agree with you there. We have Pat Mahomes projected for the highest quarterback ownership on this entire slate, so might be even more reason to fade there. I don't know. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do with this one. You talked about the Chargers a little bit? Is there like, can we play anyone? Like, what are we? I kind of like this Kansas City defense a little bit. Hunter Henry for $17 seems like a bargain, but his production has just not been there of late. Though he did get 7 targets last game. Yeah, like it almost seems like the Chargers are a contrarian stack here. Maybe I don't know.
It's I am drawn a bit to the Chiefs defense. They've been good. I always like them at home. If I did have to pick a weapon, I mean, I think Keenan Allen is the safest. He's going to get some production. The way to really attack the Chiefs is on the ground. It would be Melvin Gordon. But the problem is the opportunity cost. Not that it's expensive at $23, but we've rattled off a bunch of guys in that neighborhood that I personally feel a little more comfortable with.
Yeah, and Melvin Gordon just it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence right now. Just 9 and 7 and 12 rushing attempts over his last three. So Austin Eckler, splitting the workload here. I don't really feel good about anyone in this backfield, but it's the kind of backfield that you could have one of these guys go off, no question, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've got some talent. It's very Rivers has been what a disappointment. We'll have to see. This is not important for the slate, obviously. I wonder
Yeah.
if the Chargers will draft, uh, a quarterback with that high pick.
I definitely think it's a possibility, and especially when you have someone like Tua who may fall because of the
Yep.
injury,
To Justin Herbert, my duck, my
right?
favorite.
That's an interesting one, right?
Yeah,
Head on down the coast a little bit.
I would love that.
Maybe it's time. Maybe this is the last Rivers game. Who knows?
It could
Uh,
be.
all right, let's talk about contrarian builds just a little bit before we get out of here. So I'm just looking at our quarterback ownership right now. I'm just going to throw out some names of guys under 5% owned. Tell me if you like any of them. The ones that stand out to me under 5%, we got Jameis Winston 2%. The reason for his low ownership is simply his price point, $40, I think. Drew Brees, $36, not getting any ownership. Jared Goff, $33, not getting any ownership. Rivers, and then you kind of go down to the poo-poo platter of quarterbacks. Though Daniel Jones is actually someone I would consider at 1% ownership. Anyone down here catching your eye that you would like to build some contrarian stacks around?
So, you mentioned I think Jameis is an obvious guy that I am very comfortable with. Uh, Goff, I'm on the fence with. I'd like to see what's up with that offense if we get word. I do want to mention Baker. I don't know where he falls ownership wise,
Ooh, very
but
low.
very low, I'm assuming. Now, I understand that it's the Browns, but the Bengals defense has been terrible, and Baker struggled against them the first time. We'll see who he has, but especially if one of those receivers sit, I almost like that more because I
Mhm.
think Landry would really become an interesting situation with him. No one's going to do that. You could even throw Kareem Hunt if you want to go way off the wall. Run it back with a Mixon type. That is a build that nobody is going to do. There is a ton of risk. I want to make that clear off the top. But this is still a Bengals defense that's bottom five across the board, run in the pass.
That's a really good call there. I like that a lot. It's not going to go owned. Kareem Hunt, I don't even know if you need to pop him in, but
No.
you could certainly do it, right? Like he's getting a lot of work in the passing game. And yeah, like this game could go anyway. Like if you told me it was 38 to 35, just like last week or whatever it was, like I would believe it. And if you said it was if it was 17 to 14, I think I'd buy that too.
Absolutely. And those are my favorite types of games to stack, a boom bust. Like
Yeah.
if you stack a game, if it's 17-14, 3-0, 7-3, it's all equally bad. But
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
game,
You're not winning.
exactly, you're not winning. The ceiling on this game to me is just as high as any game across the slate. There's just a lot more risk.
Awesome. All right. I'm glad to hear that. I like, I'm going with some brown stacks. I'm gonna roll with you this
Little
week.
brownies.
We normally build a cash lineup as well. Let's just talk a little bit about our favorite cash plays. I can tell you right now, crunching with Osmos projections, there's some guys that we really like. Uh, Favorite quarterback, which I'm not as high on, just because of the shoulder injury, would be Dak Prescott. That's just a little bit scary to me. Watching him last week, just kind of hurling ducks everywhere, it was tough to watch. So one guy I would probably pivot to would be, if you're worried about that, is Aaron Rodgers. From running backs, we got Alvin Kamara getting a ton of ownership. Justice Hill as well, I'm guessing, because Mark Ingram's out and he is probably the bare minimum. Yes, he is $10. And Joe Mixon, probably another cash option. Wide receiver wise, popping in Osmo's predictions, AJ Brown, Jarvis Landry, DeAndre Hopkins, Danny Amendola, and then of course tight ends. Who do you think the number one tight end is here? Kind of surprised at this.
Number one tight end. I'll say Dallas Goedert.
Tyler
Did Ertz in?
No, he has Ertz in right now.
Okay, well,
So,
not Dallas Goedert. Who is it?
It's Tyler Higbee.
It's amazing. Higbee is just someone I still. It's hard. I mean, the year's coming to a close, but I see him at $24. I'm like, you've got Hooper, you've got Waller, but it's hard not to consider him. It's a fair point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll have some shares for sure. All right. Well, that's any final thoughts here. Anything you wanted to say? Anything I missed that we didn't go over that you're itching to tell people about, Ben?
No, I think this is one of those slates. If you have some time before you build, just prioritize what Nolan was doing right at the top. Who is definitely sitting? Who is kind of an if team? If something happens, then they could sit. And then who do we know what they're doing? You want to have a blend, I think, on most of your lineups, taking into account all three. Don't just omit all the teams that are sitting. Don't go exclusively to the teams that are, if you want to have a nice balanced build where you have some upside, you can exploit that with ownership, but you don't go crazy, because if you go all guys that are up in the air, Chiefs, Texans, someone's going to burn you and you're dead before you even get started.
Yeah, great points all around. Free content on Osmo today, NBA ownership projections, and Sam Smith's article from the trenches, which is a great read every week. It's normally premium. It goes over like which of the offensive and defensive line matchups have which teams have plus, which teams have negative matchups. Allows you to pick out some running backs that might be flying under the radar because of their great trenches matchups. As well, we have a promo going on right now. Premier League, use promo code Premier League for $1. You get 1 week of EPL coverage. We got 4 slates over this Christmas span. EPL just goes crazy at this time of year. So for $1, use promo code Premier League, and you can get a week of our projections, as well as Tristan Ho's great articles. Ben, you got anything coming on up that you want to tell people about here?
So I know we're focused on NFL, but I'm a college football guy. Bowl season, full swing. Playoffs are tomorrow. I will have a full DFS and betting breakdown. I'll be hanging in Slack, so we'd love to have you guys in there. Check those articles out, though, and let's finish bowl season strong, because we have about 30 big ones coming up.
Awesome. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for filling in for Alex this week. He's probably just sitting, sipping a pina colada, watching us right now.
Of course.
We will be, I think we're going to be back to the playoffs, but I'm not entirely sure. We will, we'll let you know on the site. And if you could hit that like button, again, we greatly appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, guys.